In Washington, where some lawmakers say it's time to start talking about another massive coronavirus relief bill. I've got that story coming up.
I'm Morgan Wright in Washington. Senate Democrats have blocked Republicans' attempts to get more financial help for small businesses during the pandemic. How this could impact struggling businesses ahead.
Could the answer to having elections in the coronavirus era be mail-in voting? I'm Joe Khalil here in Washington. I'm going to show you the push some lawmakers are making to have a universal mail-in balloting system and the pushback that it's getting.
Efforts to appropriate more federal money for the coronavirus pandemic failed today in Congress. I'm Alexandra Limon in Washington, and I'll explain why coming up.
Members of the House and Senate want airports to take steps to help combat the spread of the coronavirus. I'm Basil John reporting in Washington, while lawmakers want to see more of an effort from airports and the Department of Homeland Security.
As the coronavirus pandemic continues to spread throughout the nation's prison system, members of Congress want answers. I'm Jesse Chenor in Washington, and I'll have that story coming up.
Senators still under fire for stock trades. I'm Kelly Meyer reporting from Washington, why some are selling them off and ethics groups are calling for more investigation.
Wednesday, Senate Democrats like Maryland's Ben Cardin blocked Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's request for additional money for small businesses.
My colleagues must not treat working Americans as political hostages.
This unanimous consent is basically a political stunt.
The Senate has approved $350 billion for small business relief during this pandemic, but McConnell says they need more funding and they need it fast.
We're not talking about making any policy changes. We're literally changing the number 350 to 600.
But Democrats say any new relief bill needs to go further and include support for groups that were left out of the previous relief bills.
We know we need more money for this program. Many of us predicted this before we passed the CARES Act. But for goodness sakes, let's take the opportunity to make some bipartisan fixes.
Whatever the Senate passes must also pass in the Democratic-controlled House. New York Congressman Anthony Brindisi.
We're all in favor of more funding for small businesses, but we also have to focus, too, on hospitals as well as state and local governments.
Negotiations are expected to continue behind the scenes until Monday. Leader McConnell says that will be lawmakers' last chance to easily inject more money into the business community. Reporting in Washington, I'm Morgan Wright.
Please, do not block emergency aid you do not even oppose.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell pleaded with Democrats to add hundreds of billions of dollars to the Paycheck Protection program, meant to help small businesses from the economic impact of the pandemic before the program runs out of money.
30% of the total funding spoken for in just the first few days.
McConnell said the only change would be the amount, increasing the funds available for forgivable loans from $350 billion to $600 billion. But Senate Democrats blocked the effort to make the change by unanimous consent. Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley tells me the program needs more money, but problems with the program need to be fixed first.
Unless you're a larger small business with an established lending and borrowing relationship with the bank, you're very unlikely to get in the door.
Senator Merkley says small business owners who employ fewer than 50 people, minority business owners, and nonprofits like community hospitals are having trouble accessing the SBA-backed loans.
We need to make sure the small businesses that aren't currently being helped get help.
Democrats introduced their own bill, giving an additional $250 billion to hospitals and states, but that effort was blocked by Republicans. In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio says Congress needs to give frontline coronavirus workers a raise.
The coronavirus number 4 package should include federal dollars for pandemic pay to pay these workers more than they're working because they are, in fact, risking their lives for us.
He's talking about plans for the next coronavirus bill. Indiana Democratic Congressman Andre Carson is also on board.
We want to make sure that health workers have protection.
Carson says Congress should use the opportunity to rebuild America.
Well, we want to make sure that this is targeted especially toward infrastructure.
But Indiana Republican Senator Todd Young says he wants to see how well the economy responds to the $2.2 trillion law Congress passed just 2 weeks ago.
I am preparing a punch list of priorities that I'm hearing about from Hoosiers, especially as it relates to infrastructure, for when that time comes.
But Democrats have more on their list than just infrastructure.
But also we want to really look at criminal justice reform in this next package.
But some Republicans, like Indiana Senator Mike Braun, say a Democratic wish list won't fly.
If it's needed and it's to directly address COVID-19 and its impact on the economy, I'm going to be listening. If it has any of the other stuff on it, you're going to lose a lot of Republicans.
There's still time for long-distance debate. It's not clear when Congress will feel it's safe to return to Washington and get down to business on the next bill. Reporting in Washington, I'm Trevor Shirley.
Some congressional lawmakers say they aren't surprised by new data showing African Americans are at greater risk of dying from coronavirus.
The pandemic has highlighted many of the underlying concerns that the Congressional Black Caucus and Hispanic Caucus have been talking about for decades.
Indiana Congressman Andre Carson says poor housing conditions, lack of resources, and underlying health conditions in Black communities created a perfect storm for the virus.
Our asthma rates are higher, diabetes rates are higher, hypertension.
African Americans make up more than 70% of deaths in Chicago, Milwaukee, and Louisiana. In Missouri, Congressman Emanuel Cleaver says a lack of health insurance could be why.
They go to a doctor, it is to the emergency room, going there when everything has been exacerbated, when their body has just about been worn out.
According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, African Americans are 1.5 times more likely to be uninsured than white Americans.
I think we need to get beyond political talking points and address the core root of this issue, and it has to do with the lack of having health care for all people.
It says to me that we need to make reform.
Right now, Wisconsin Democrat Tammy Baldwin says the country needs more information about how different groups are being affected.
The CDC has not been forthcoming.
Baldwin and the Congressional Black Caucus are calling on the CDC and all states to include racial data in their pandemic reports. In Washington, Raquel Martin.
Virginia Congressman Don Beyer says our airports need to join the battle against the coronavirus.
We've always known that airplanes are one of the most dangerous places in the world to pick up viruses and bacteria. You know, all those people in a closed space for a number of hours.
Beyer wants stricter measures in place at American airports to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
The kinds of steps that you and I and our families are taking aren't being held there.
Beyer sent a letter to the Department of Homeland Security asking them to enforce social distancing, take temperature checks, help travelers with guidance on how to self-quarantine, and provide protective equipment for staff. Virginia Representative Abigail Spanberger says these changes are important protections for travelers.
But it's also important for the essential workers who are working at our airports and for our airlines, so that they can be safe at work as well.
And Virginia Senator Mark Warner says other countries are already taking action.
Taiwan and Korea and Singapore, they've been able to manage the virus better because they take your temperature when you land at the airport.
Beyer, Spanberger, and Warner all agree that U.S. airports need to make changes as soon as possible. Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
Death is imminent for us. We need help.
From desperate pleas for their lives in Alabama,
It's going to be a mass grave site,
to prison inmates demanding action in Washington state. Around the country, jails and prisons are spreading the coronavirus.
It's clearly a hot spot,
for the coronavirus and COVID-19.
One of the hardest hit federal prisons is in Louisiana Senator John Kennedy's home state. The federal correctional complex in Oakdale has reported 5 inmate deaths and more than 24 inmates and staff who have tested positive.
People in the community of Oakdale are scared. The prison guards are scared. The employees are scared. The prisoners are scared.
To combat the outbreaks in Louisiana and 2 other states, Attorney General William Barr recently ordered the Bureau of Prisons to prioritize the early release of certain federal inmates. But Kennedy doesn't think that's the right call.
Most of these prisoners are not there just for missing Sunday school. Many of them committed crimes of violence, and the answer is not just to let all our prisoners go.
BOP reports its prisons have moved nearly 600 inmates to home confinement. Kennedy worries those released could spread coronavirus in their community and wants to know how BOP plans to handle this.
If I don't hear something in short order, I'm going to raise fresh hell with them because the problem's not getting better.
Kennedy says he will continue to push for better quarantine measures inside prisons and better protection for staff. In Washington, I'm Jessie Tenor.
We have to physically distance ourselves, but we cannot democratically distance ourselves.
Congressman Eric Swalwell's one of many Democrats calling for universal mail-in voting.
We can't allow this pandemic to set us backward as far as access to the polls.
More than a dozen states have delayed their primaries over coronavirus concerns. Swalwell says mail-in voting allows everyone to safely cast their ballots from home without delaying or canceling elections.
We're going to need that nationwide if these types of cases are still peaking.
But voting rules are set by each state individually. Democrats led by Speaker Pelosi are pushing for billions of dollars to encourage states to create their own mail-in balloting systems.
Some people may prefer to go to the polls, but the lower that number is, the healthier for everyone.
Mail-in voting is a terrible thing.
But President Trump says he believes mail-in voting could lead to widespread voter fraud.
You get thousands and thousands of people sitting in somebody's living room signing ballots all over the place.
House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy says money for mail-in balloting doesn't belong in a coronavirus emergency bill.
But you want to hold the bill up because we want to change election law for November. If somehow you think that gives you some political benefit. That's disgusting to me.
Speaker Pelosi says the issue remains on the table as party leaders work out the next emergency aid package. In Washington, I'm Joe Khalil.
I'm not involved in directing stock trades.
But multimillionaire Georgia Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler says she's selling all her stocks after allegations she violated Senate ethics rules on insider trading.
These are false, politically motivated allegations that I will be absolutely proving wrong.
Loeffler, North Carolina Senator Richard Burr, and Georgia's other Senator David Perdue are all defending recent stock sales. The senators are denying reports they used classified information from a private Senate briefing to sell off certain stocks before the coronavirus caused the market to crash. Burr has said he relied on media reports for his trading and has requested a Senate ethics investigation he says will clear him of wrongdoing. Perdue told us back in March,
I've had outside professionals that manage my personal affairs.
And Perdue's office says he was not in the Senate briefing. Noah Bookbinder with Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics is calling for continued investigation into the stock sales.
I think there's enough smoke there that an investigative body has to look into it and see if there's fire.
He says Loeffler getting out of the market should not end the investigation. Loeffler's Republican Senate challenger, Georgia Congressman Doug Collins, says she needs to explain her actions to voters.
I think the biggest problem she has right now is losing the trust of Georgians.
A Republican Party spokesperson says Senator Loeffler continues to have widespread support. Reporting in Washington, I'm Kelly Meyer.
Thank you very much. This week, America continues our aggressive effort to defeat the virus
One of the most important things that we could be doing right now as a government is to be communicating more effectively and transparently about this crisis. We still see President Trump giving his press briefings every day. I am glad there is a desire to inform the people. I am not sure that is necessarily the motivation behind those briefings. But the thing that worries me the most about them is that he and the administration are not necessarily on the same page about their talking points, so people come away confused, and B, they're not modeling good behavior at those briefings. They should not be holding them in person anymore. As much as they are trying to socially distance the reporters in the room, people are putting their lives at risk, including the life of the president and the doctors who are advising him. A lot of other countries are doing these briefings digitally. We're doing this briefing digitally. I think we need to model that good behavior.
Their numbers seem to be a little bit on the light side, and I'm being nice when I say that, relative to what we witnessed and what was reported.
What really confuses me right now is the decision to prioritize it over testing, treatment, and quarantine center construction. Foreign policy is important. You're not going to find anybody disagreeing with that at the Wilson Center, but holding China to accountability is certainly something that you could easily do a couple months from now after the case numbers in the United States have dropped.
How long do you think this is going to go on?
I don't know. I was hoping a month. For myself, it looks like right now almost all of my freelance work is pretty much canceled till June. I brought everything home because they locked the building where my salon is. I just didn't want everything locked up, so this is what I would use on my station in the salon. What am I going to look for work in? I can't even take care of anybody at home. I think it's very frightening, not just for the right now, but even if we were told to go back to work tomorrow. I mean, the average working family, is only a couple of weeks away from not being able to pay bills.
Do you miss being able to do your craft?
I miss. My husband has very long hair, and he half jokingly says, "I'll sit on the floor and you can do my hair."
We're facing this invisible monster that we can't see, and we have to fight it, and it's hard. I am afraid of what is to come. I'm scared for these patients. I'm scared for what they're feeling. I'm scared for what they're going through. Scared that we're going to run out of PPE. I'm scared that we're going to run out of vents and that we'll have to make difficult decisions. You're looking at these patients and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is real. This is really real and affecting these patients in a way that we haven't seen. And there's not just one of them, there's many of them. Yes, they are part of this pandemic, and yes, it is terrible, but we do our best to take care of them the best that we can, and we will always take care of every patient the best that we can. When I leave here, I change my shoes before I even get in my car. I get into my car, I drive home. Right second I walk in the door, I'm taking my clothes off, I'm putting them in a bag that I had set next to the door after I left. I'm grabbing my robe and I'm jumping in the shower.
Donor, we're on the north.
Female, difficulty breathing, can't speak in full sentences, has pneumonia.
I hate the phrase, we know what we signed up for, because as much as we may have known, we didn't know this. We haven't seen this. No one has seen this. But we know why we signed up for this, and it's to help. We're at the point where you have to assume everyone is a COVID positive patient. On a personal level, we also have to assume we all have it.
Hey, son, you don't want to ride with us? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, okay? Yeah. Have a good day. How's she feeling today?
She's sweet, she's good, she's healthy, she's not...
When I got up this morning, I said, I hope the trains aren't crowded. And unfortunately, my ride was in a packed subway car. Packed. Our seniors are homebound, and nutrition is what they need to stay healthy. So it's a really big issue for us to make sure that people are fed and also safe, because we do go into the homes 6 days a week and we see how they're doing. So that's very important as well.
I used to have like 20 plus customers a day. Now I have 5, 6, 7. So I used to make, least easy $300 a day plus. Now, if I make 100, I can be lucky.
It's too quiet, very quiet. It's like a dead zone. It's like an apocalypse. It feels weird. It's just, you know, it doesn't feel normal.
I know you wanna leave me, but I refuse to let you go. If I have to beg and plead for your sympathy, I don't mind, 'cause you mean so much to me.
I'll put in a little musical theater CD or maybe even a DVD, and I'll like dance around my apartment and sing and get it out. And I'll call my best friend and we sing to each other. Sometimes we don't even talk, we just kind of sing.
Take care of yourself.
You too, no.
All right?
There was a man that called us 2 days ago. Everything is closed. He's like, I don't know what I will do without you. The man's 85 years old. So we're like, you know what? Even if we close down, if I have to go to my house and cook food for you, I'll do it for you.
I did have a very positive day in some ways. I had 2 really sick patients come in, and both of them, our team did a great job at stabilizing, and they're doing much better. And one of them showed up to the emergency room with an oxygen saturation of 50%. That's very abnormal. He had no business being alive and was probably within minutes of death. And we were able to save him. And typically, we would try to save someone like that by intubating them, put a breathing tube in them, and putting them on a ventilator. But we were able to save them without needing to do that.
Pre-hospitally, we're giving our all. We're really, every EMT and paramedic in this city right now is giving more than they ever have. And the same with the nurses and doctors and ER staffs. I've personally had moments where I've broken down, not on calls, but it's the moments in between. It's the quiet drive home. It's hearing a song on the radio. Now we're at the point where people I know personally have passed from this. And it worries, and every call you get worried, and every possible exposure you get worried, but you just keep trucking. The day has to end at some point.
The machines run day and night.
That's why it's so hot in here.
3D Standard normally makes custom machine parts for factories.
And it could be washed dozens and dozens of times.
When COVID-19 became a pandemic, demand surged for face masks, face shields, and hand sanitizers. But even doctors couldn't find them.
And we started getting emails, hundreds of emails.
And now Eric Fiegel's Houston startup makes protective masks.
We send our prints back and forth.
The company got an open source design and perfected it with the help of physicians.
We can produce about 125 masks a day.
A West Texas boat maker made a big production switch too.
And we could use our very talented workforce and the people that we have that are already used to production. They're already used to using the machines that we have in play on boat manufacturing.
Taiga Boat says it now churns out 5,000 face shields a day. It's donating many of them to local doctors. In Nashville, Tennessee,
well, I noticed that we couldn't get hand sanitizer ourselves, so I wanted it for my staff and my own employees to be safe.
A craft distillery followed the example of other liquor makers. It now distributes hand sanitizers.
Hospitals started calling us, ERs.
Historically, American businesses, small and large, have switched specialties to fulfill critical needs in wartime. But unlike then, historian Mark Wilson says now there's not a central organizing effort from the federal government.
It's both inspiring, but also maybe disturbing that we haven't prepared or managed the crisis more competently.
The National Federation of Independent Business says 80% of its members are making significantly less money due to the coronavirus-related economic slowdown. Nevertheless, 3D Standard's owner says he and his employees are still motivated.
It's the American ingenuity.
To at least try to help. John Moen, Associated Press, Houston.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Put them right here. Put 10 more right here.
going from different communities, making sure that our people get something to eat, making sure that the seniors eat every day, and just basically giving a helping hand during the time of need. I grew up here and I feel like it's very important for me to get back here because I love my community and I feel like we are one. So giving back is a big part of my heart. I love to do it.
We're at Martha's Table. We are located in Washington, D.C. Southeast. And Martha's Table is a nonprofit organization that focuses on quality education, programming, food and nutrition. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, we had to make some changes and we had to meet the needs by providing a service where we can drop off the grocery bags to the families.
We may have families that don't have the resources to get to the grocery stores, right? Because some of our families live in communities where they only have a corner store. They're miles away from a grocery store. So we want to make sure that our wagons are getting to those communities.
I have two friends, and someone else I know has already contracted the virus. And we have some of the highest health disparities from asthma to high blood pressure, diabetes, you name it, we have it. And we have some of the highest food insecurities in this community. I think the greatest need right now is unity. Yeah, we got to unify.
This is a big, big help. I mean, the oranges, the sweet potatoes, and the bananas and everything. This is just awesome.
This time of need, we all came together, and it's like we're jailed together right now.
You too.
If you have to go to the store or your job, just stay 6 feet apart and cover your mouth. I want him to know that I'm helping the virus stop a lot. Stay home. I'm sorry if you can't go to your place. Don't go anywhere. And wash your hands. I'm serious. So you follow what I'm saying every single day. You should watch this video every single day because that helps you not getting the virus. And I'm really, really serious. So you should do this video every single day. Because I want to make more videos to help people not get the virus. So, and rub it on and I clean my fingers. Thank you for all of the doctors that are working out there. If you're at the grocery store and you cough into your hand and you cut something, but you're not going to buy it, someone else that touches it and needs to buy it will get sick. I want to be a president. I'm serious. Stay home. Stay safe. I'm serious. See you on the next video.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched was so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there.